This is a case of 26-year-old Prisma Reyes and how she vanished after having lunch with an ex-boyfriend. On Wednesday, April 17, 2019, Prisma went to go work at her new job at a car dealership. She pulled into work and she was able to find a really good parking spot. However, one of her coworkers actually confronted Prisma and accused her of stealing her preferred spot. They got into a little bit of an argument and Prisma reported this to her superiors and then just continued on with her day. At around noon, Prisma left the car dealership and went to go on her lunch break. Went to go eat at a Tex-Mex restaurant and she actually went to go eat with her ex-boyfriend Ryan. They enjoyed some food and drinks together and after a while, Ryan left the restaurant. However, some witnesses say that Ryan and Prisma got into an argument during this lunch and that's why Ryan left. However, we don't know if that's actually what went down. After her ex-boyfriend Ryan left, Prisma stayed at the restaurant for another 3 hours. She was by herself and throughout these 3 hours, she called her son's babysitter and they spoke on the phone for an hour. When asked about this conversation, the babysitter says that they simply spoke about her job and they also spoke about what time Prisma was going to go to pick up her son. After this, Prisma continued to remain at the bar for another 2 hours until the bartender eventually had to cut her off. They got into some type of verbal argument, but the specifics of this argument have never been released by police. After this verbal argument, Prisma was asked to leave the restaurant. After leaving the restaurant, Prisma got inside her white Jeep Wrangler and she headed in the direction of the dealership. On her way back to the car dealership, Prisma got into another altercation, but this time it was a road rage incident where she pulled on another driver. This driver called the police, but by the time they got there, Prisma was gone. After this incident, Prisma continued to make her way to her job, but then she actually did a U-turn and instead of going to work, she began making her way to her ex-boyfriend's apartment. Security footage shows Prisma parking her car outside of the apartment building and she kind of parked her car at an angle where it was kind of blocking an intersection. It seems like she was just going to park quickly, get down, and then get back in her car and leave. After parking her car, Prisma quickly gets out and runs through the security gate to quickly get in before it closes. Once Prisma makes it inside, she heads over to the parking garage elevators and that's when we see her pacing back and forth, speaking on the phone. She called multiple friends and family members during this time, expressing to them that she was upset about something. After speaking on the phone for several minutes, Prisma gets inside the elevator and that's when she runs into another resident of the building. Now, this resident told police that Prisma got into the elevator and that she was crying and that she appeared very distraught. It just didn't seem like she was okay, and this resident says that they don't remember what floor Prisma got off on. That is the last surveillance footage of Prisma Reyes. She never showed up at the babysitter's house to pick up her son, and that's when the babysitter reported her missing. Police say there's no footage of Prisma ever getting inside the apartment building or leaving. Police say that there's no footage of Prisma actually getting inside the apartment building or leaving. Some of the exits throughout the building didn't have any cameras, so police can't prove if she actually left. On top of that, police also found Prisma's car still parked in the same spot, so if she did leave, it wasn't with her car. Now, since Prisma had gone to lunch with her ex-boyfriend earlier that day and then was last seen trying to get into his apartment building, police wanted to go speak to the ex. Police went to go speak to Ryan, and he says that the last time he saw Prisma was at lunch. He told police that he actually had a date that night, so as soon as lunch ended, he got inside his car and he went out of town for this date. He says he didn't return to his apartment until around midnight. But of course, police still searched his apartment and they also searched his car and they didn't find anything. They also checked his alibi and his phone records did show that he was out of town at the time that Prisma was at his apartment. Police went to go speak to the employees at the restaurant where Prisma and Ryan had lunch. The employees at the restaurant say that Ryan didn't introduce himself as Ryan, he actually introduced himself as Matt. He was also wearing a hat and sunglasses during this time. Now, police thought this was weird, like why would you use a fake name while at a restaurant and why were you wearing a hat and sunglasses inside? So police went to go question him about this and Ryan says that yes, he was wearing a hat and sunglasses, but he denies ever calling himself Matt. After confirming his alibi and checking his apartment and his car for evidence and not finding any, police have cleared Ryan from the investigation. However, a few days after Prisma's disappearance, he did pack up all his things and he moved out of the apartment, which some people find a little bit odd. Prisma Reyes was last seen in 2019 and to this day in 2023, she is still missing. Her family does believe that foul play was involved because she would never willingly abandon her son. She absolutely adored her son and she was calling the babysitter earlier that day about what time she was going to go pick him up, but she didn't plan to abandon him. The family tries to hold on to hope that their daughter is still alive, but they believe that she might have been sex trafficked or kidnapped. You know, a lot of people do wonder about the ex-boyfriend just because his phone records show that he was out of town during that time doesn't mean that he was actually out of town. Some people do wonder if they did get into an altercation at the restaurant and then Prisma decided to go to his apartment later that night to kind of talk things over. And when she got to his apartment, something bad happened. On the other hand, some people find the babysitter suspicious. The family themselves say that they didn't find out about Prisma's disappearance through the babysitter. They actually found out through the police. And they find this odd. If the babysitter was the one that made the 911 call and reported Prisma as missing, why wouldn't she call the family to let them know, hey, your daughter is missing, or have you seen your daughter? This is the case of 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson and how she died during a trip to Cabo with her friends. Shanquella was born on January 9th, 1997 in Charlotte, North Carolina. She studied business and with her degree she was able to open 2 businesses. One was called Exquisite Boutique, which was a woman's fashion line, and then she also opened Exquisite Kids. Exquisite Kids' mission was to help kids fall in love with their natural hair, so she would actually go and she would braid the kids' hair herself. She just seemed like an overall hardworking person that genuinely wanted to help benefit the world. At university, Shanquella met a man named Khalil Cook, and he quickly became one of her closest friends. They were so close that he would actually go on vacations with Shanquella and with her family. He ended up introducing Shanquella to one of his own friend groups that consisted of 5 people. This was a group of friends, and they all decided that they wanted to take a trip to Cabo. Now, Shanquella didn't really know these people that well. Again, these were Khalil's friends, but Khalil was pretty much her best friend, so she felt comfortable enough going on the trip and, getting to know everyone else a little bit better. So, on October 28th, 2022, Shanquella and 5 of the 6 members flew from North Carolina to Cabo. 6th member Nazir Wiggins was actually going to fly in the next day. The group was staying in this very nice, luxurious villa. It was so spacious, they had enough room for at least 12 people, and they even hired a private chef. So it was supposed to be a fun and just very relaxing trip. As soon as Shanquella landed, she called her mother Salamandra and let her know that she had arrived safely. Everything sounded okay, so Salamandra told her daughter, okay, be careful, talk to me tomorrow, I love you. But unfortunately, that would be the last time that Salamandra would ever speak to her daughter. On their first night, everyone was drinking, partying, having a good time. There was actually a video filmed by Khalil of Shanquella passed out in a hammock. He approached Shanquella and he said, we got our first dead body. Now that might have been a joke in the moment, but looking back at what actually happened to Shanquella during this trip, it's very eerie. Next morning on October 29th, the entire group was getting ready to go swimming. Shanquella actually posted an Instagram story where she was going around the house looking for her friends. She was going from room to room saying, it doesn't take that long to get naked, where y'all at? She eventually comes across her room, and when she goes inside, she finds all of the friends there. Now, when Shanquella walked inside the room, it got completely silent. When you walk into a room and you can just tell that people were just talking about you, that's exactly how that video feels like. Everyone was fully clothed. It didn't look like they were all getting ready to go swimming like they had planned. Only a few hours after that Instagram story was posted, a doctor was called to the villa at around 2:13 p.m. for someone who needed medical attention. And this person was Shanquella Robinson. Dr. Gutierrez arrived to the scene and says that Shanquella appeared to be dehydrated, disoriented, verbally unresponsive, and appearing to be intoxicated. She told the rest of the group that they needed to take Shanquella to the hospital, but they refused to. They claimed that it was too expensive. Around 4 p.m., Khalil called Shanquella's mother and told her that Shanquella wasn't feeling well, but not to worry about it because a doctor was at the villa and everything was going to be okay. However, an hour later, Shanquella had a seizure and was struggling to breathe. Soon as Shanquella went into cardiac arrest, Dr. Gutierrez immediately called the paramedics. They arrived to the scene and they started doing CPR. They did 14 rounds of mechanical CPR and they gave her 5 doses of adrenaline. But unfortunately, none of that worked and Shanquella was declared dead. After this, Khalil calls Salamandra and tells her, your daughter is dead. As soon as Salamandra heard that, she said her heart immediately dropped. She was thinking to herself, what does he mean she's dead? My daughter was alive just a few hours ago. After this, the remaining group, which is also known as the Cabo 6, returned back to North Carolina. It could make sense that they didn't want to continue partying after their friend just died. However, their search history shows that they were looking for flights back home 24 hours into the trip, before Shanquella died. So why were they already looking to leave early? When they got back to North Carolina, they went to Shanquella's house and they gave her family her suitcase. After this, each of them would go to Salamandra's house and they would offer their condolences and just talk about Shanquella's death. They all told Salamandra that Shanquella had died from alcohol poisoning. However, Salamandra did not believe this. She says that her daughter would never get that crazy, even while on vacation with her friends. As each friend came to visit Salamandra, she would ask them, what happened that day, and everyone kind of had like a different story. For example, one person would say, oh, Khalil was the one that called the police that day. Then another friend would say the complete opposite and would say, oh no, actually it was this person that called the police. Salamandra just thought it was weird that they couldn't get their story straight. Then, Salamandra received an anonymous call from someone letting her know that Shanquella's death wasn't an accident and that she was actually assaulted on the trip. A video started going viral on the internet that was taken on October 29th, the day that Shanquella died. In the video, Shanquella is naked and being beaten by one of the girls on the trip. She doesn't fight back in any way, and at one point you can even hear who people believe is Khalil telling her, "Can you even fight back?" Shanquella responds and says no, and the assault continues. Now, some people speculate that the reason Shanquella was naked in that video is because that was the morning that they were all supposed to go swimming. Maybe they were gonna go skinny dipping, I'm not sure, but after Shanquella filmed that Instagram story where she was going around the house looking for her friends, it's believed that Shanquella went back to her room, and then that's when she was essentially jumped by her friends. Because the video went viral, the FBI and even the Mexican authorities got involved. For that, there wasn't even a murder investigation going on because at this point, people still believe that her death was because of alcohol poisoning. But after seeing that video, things changed. Shanquella's parents were able to get an English copy of the full death certificate and the autopsy, and it did not match what the friends were claiming. This report listed Shanquella's death as a severe spinal cord injury, and there was no mention of alcohol or intoxication, meaning that that wasn't even relevant to Shanquella's death like her friends claim. She also had a bloodshot and swollen eye, a bump on her head, and her lip was cut open and swollen. As of now, no one has been arrested for the death of 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson. The family attorney has revealed that they are going to meet with White House officials to discuss the death of Shanquella and the situation regarding the arrest and extradition of the individual accused. It's not fair that this happened to her and that these people are just out and about acting as if nothing happened. All we can do right now is continue to spread awareness, and I truly hope that Shanquella receives justice.